Today marks a very important day in the 2026 offseason. The franchise tag window starts today, carries through the next 2 weeks. And while the Falcons are rumored to be franchise tagging Kyle Pitts, this clearly leaves the door open for a lot of other discussions surrounding our free agents and what's going to become of them. And that's where Kirk Cousins comes into all of this. Welcome in, Falcons fans, to Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. Before we continue on and talk about Kirk Cousins, who is the primary focus of today's episode, some important offseason dates for you to know. Obviously, we had Super Bowl 60. The waiver period opened on February 9th. Now, today through the 3rd, that tag window opens, and then obviously you got the combine, you've got early negotiating with that early tampering period beginning on March 9th. And then, of course, free agency begins officially on the 11th. Obviously, The Athletic is one of those websites that kind of deals with all things NFL and all things sports, really. And, of course, they decided to drop their salary cap cut candidates for each team. Teams that could move off of bigger named players that would really help out their cap situation before free agency officially begins. Now, we kind of know what the answer is on who the salary cap cut candidate is. Spoiler, if you don't know who it is, he's on the thumbnail. Now, before we go into that, let's talk about the tag really quick for a second. Will any Falcon get franchise tagged this year? Believe it or not, I didn't know this. Only 2 players got tagged last year. T. Higgins and I forget who the other players, but I know T. Higgins was definitely franchise tagged. So it's very seldom that the franchise tag gets used in some years. Other years, it's pretty prevalent. Obviously, I expect the Falcons to franchise tag Kyle Pitts, but let me know in the comment section down below. All right, let's get back out of Kirk here for a second. So obviously, Kirk Cousins is listed as the salary cap cut candidate for the Falcons. This is not any new information in case you haven't been keeping up with anything surrounding the Dirty Birds or with anything that we've done here on the channel. We've been on this for basically 2 months. So I'm sure you're saying, duh, we knew this. Well, believe it or not, the focus of this episode is not to talk about the fact that Kirk is going to be the cap casualty or the cut candidate on this 53, but more so, what does a actual plan look like for Kirk Cousins in signing in free agency? Now, The Athletic does go on to say this. If Kirk Cousins' contract was more forgiving, it would make a lot more sense to bring back the veteran quarterback because there's no guarantee that Michael Penix Jr., who is rehabbing his ACL, suffered in Week 11 last year against the Carolina Panthers, will be ready for the season opener. Cousins led the Falcons to 4 straight wins to end the season and had his best statistical season under new Atlanta head coach Kevin Stefanski in 2019 when he was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings. However, this 4-year deal has always been set to swell. In his final 2 seasons, Kirk's set to get $67.9 million if he is still on the roster come March 13th. So probably not going to be on the roster come March 13th unless, going on in this article, that Arthur Blank decides that he's either going to A, foot that bill, which we all think no shot in hell, or if Kirk is released and then re-signs if there is little interest elsewhere on a more team-friendly deal. Now, like I told you, all of this is not new news for Falcons fans, but the one thing has definitely emerged, at least in my mind, this early offseason, and what is the Kirk Cousins landing spot situation? Because as the article stated, there is a chance that Kirk could re-sign with the Falcons on a team-friendly deal, but Kirk wants to be a starter. Kirk wants to know that the next place that he plays football for in 2026 is the team that's going to give him an opportunity to be the starting quarterback. Now, he's no longer in the, what's the word I'm looking for? He's no longer in that area of being a franchise quarterback anymore. He is now a very reliable bridge option. So I think there's really only 3 teams that he could land on. That's it. I only see 3 teams actually seeing a market for Kirk Cousins. So let's start with the first one, that being the Minnesota Vikings. And that's mostly because of the prior connection that he has with the Vikings, having spent 6 seasons there, most notably also under Kevin O'Connell. But Kirk Cousins, who is a lot smaller in this photo, believe it or not, that we're going to show you here in just a second, has clearly that, sort of background in Minnesota, and having spent 6 seasons in Minnesota, understands the Kevin O'Connell style of offense. He understands what that fan base is looking for. He knows exactly what playing quarterback for the Vikings is like, and that's not something that, I'm sure he's taking lightly in considerations this offseason. The main reason, though, why Kirk could go back to Minnesota is because of what their current quarterback situation looks like. It sucks. J.J. McCarthy, major red flag. Major red flag. Kirk, in his 8 games started, to JJ's basically his rookie season, because he spent the entirety of his rookie season with that ACL injury. Kirk beat him in every statistical category in less starts, except for passing touchdowns, of course. But he had less interceptions, a higher passer rating, more passing yards, a higher completion percentage. Kirk is a better quarterback than J.J. McCarthy, and I think that will continue on for the remainder of time. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is a starting caliber quarterback. I really don't. So, obviously, if the Vikings are looking to move on, if they're hitting the panic button, because obviously that division in the NFC North has gotten significantly better now with the emergence of Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears, there is a reason, or at least 4 reasons in my opinion, why Kirk would go back to the Vikings. Familiarity with Kevin O'Connell. JJ is that huge red flag. They need a reliable veteran option in the event that JJ is still going to be somewhat of an option. And most notably, the quarterback battle is 100% alive and well. And the Vikings are one of the very few teams right now in the 2026 offseason that have been listed as a team that is looking to dump their current quarterback situation. Those trade rumors are sky high. I can't tell. Every other article that I read about the Vikings says, oh, JJ traded here, or the Vikings are interested in trading for a quarterback here. I've seen every scenario thrown every which way surrounding the Vikings. But it still isn't the perfect landing spot, in my opinion. While it does make a lot of sense, and this is probably a B or B plus fit for Kirk Cousins, the most notable and the one that I believe is most likely to happen is the Arizona Cardinals. And coming up here in just a moment, I'm going to tell you why Arizona makes a whole lot of sense for Kirk Cousins and why I believe this is as good of a deal as done as you could possibly get in quarterback free agency. I meant to say that feels the most likely to me. Excuse me, that is my apologies. That is meant for the New York Football Jets, who we'll get on to in this back half of this episode. But to potato. This is the most likely to me to happen. That's my fault. Now, before we continue on and talk about what this is going to mean for the Arizona Cardinals and Kirk Cousins, I got to tell you about our friends over at Mars Men. Guys, I can't believe I'm actually saying this out loud. I turned 30 years old tomorrow. And did you know that once men turn 30 years old, their testosterone starts to naturally dip about 1% every single year after that? And that's where Mars Men comes into play. I trust Mars Men because I don't want to start feeling worn down. So I'm turning the clock back and making things easier on my body the natural way. That's why taking Mars Men, which helps your body unlock usable testosterone, is the perfect thing for you. It supports healthy T levels, energy, and stamina with 8 natural clinically dosed ingredients, including vitamin D, zinc, boron, and more. It is made in the United States. It is third-party tested, and you get a 90-day money-back guarantee, so there is no risk. Worst case scenario, you don't absolutely love it. You get your money back, but over 91% of users report higher energy levels. So for a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. It's a perfect way to kick off the new year strong. That is mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they're going to say, hey, where'd you hear about us? Please support our show and tell the Moose from Falcons Today sent you. Okay, so obviously, Kyler Murray is the quarterback currently in Arizona, but he's about as good as done in Arizona as you could possibly get. They soft benched him last year for Jacoby Brissett. And the reason that this makes so much sense is because I believe a Kyler Murray trade is not a matter of if, but a matter of when. And I could go to multiple different NFL sources, ESPN, The Athletic, Bleacher Report. All of them say that Kyler Murray is going to get traded from the Arizona Cardinals. But they go on to say that these trade rumors don't just extend to Kyler Murray. They're even more so in a different area. Like ESPN, The Athletic, and Bleacher Report are all coming out and saying that Kirk Cousins is a perfect fit for the Arizona Cardinals. That's what they're saying. So this is not just straight from the Moose's mouth. This comes from multiple sources. And I agree that Kyler will not play for the Cardinals in 26. I don't. I think he's done. After you get soft bench for Jacoby Brissett with a brand new head coach, it just makes total sense that they would move off of the Kyler Murray experiment. It was good while it lasted. He had moments. He had flashes. It just didn't work. But why Arizona? Why does Kirk make more sense? Well, like I said, Mike LaFleur is a new head coach, so he'd want to start fresh. They've invested heavily already in the 2027 draft class. That's what they're eyeing on because the quarterbacks in that draft class are going to be some of the best we've seen in recent years. Kyler is linked to all those trades, and they've got $39 million in available cap, meaning if Kirk wanted to get a little extra dinero, a little extra gravy on his plate, he could with the Cardinals, who are top 10 in cap space right now in the NFL. And here's probably a fit point for you. So, like, Kirk Cousins fit in Arizona. They're one of the least discussed franchises in the NFL. I mean, this feels like the perfect fit for Kirk Cousins, who just wants to play ball. He's not a very huge personality outside of the, you like that, you like that. He just kind of wants to go live out the last couple of years in his NFL career, play ball, and start, right? Compete for the playoffs, compete to try and win himself a Super Bowl. Now, that's obviously not with the Arizona Cardinals, but at this point, you're going to have to take what you can get. So I don't think he's going to come back to the Atlanta Falcons. I'm putting my money on the Desert Birds over there in Arizona. So what team do you think that Kirk is going to play for this coming season? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And make sure that you are subscribed. Never, ever miss a time that we go live, post a video, or basically give you any sort of Atlanta Falcons content. Our final landing spot, the New York Jets. And the Jets are probably, based off of what you saw earlier, I meant to say that is the most least likely to happen. The Jets definitely feel like the lowest on the totem pole to me in this specific case. Look, nobody wants to play for the New York Jets, right? Nobody does. But in the event that they're looking for another reliable quarterback option, they've tried so many different experiments with Aaron Rodgers, and they drafted Zach Wilson. They tried with Justin Fields. It does feel like this could be a franchise that is just desperate to get any sort of name and stability at the position. Blog and Dirty, by the way, one of my favorite Atlanta Falcons blogs, said this about Kirk to the Jets. If there is an available quarterback with a pulse, odds are the Jets will display interest. The Jets are that girl that nobody wants to go to the prom with unless you're really desperate for a date. So even though Cousins would definitely start for the Jets, this would be a desperation move. I could not agree more with that. New Jets OC Frank Reich is a fan of the strong-armed pocket passer like Kirk Cousins is, and he and the fourth-time All-Pro Bowler would be a great match. Gang Green also has a good offensive line and a solid RB1 in Breece Hall, not for long, an elite wide receiver 1 in Garrett Wilson, but they're still the Jets, which is enough to say no thanks. And if you look at the Jets quarterback situation, it's clear and obvious to me that if Kirk signed with the Jets, he'd be your starter day one. And he'd probably be your starter year one and maybe even year two if he signed a multi-year deal. The problem is nobody wants to play for the Jets at all. And I can't imagine that Kirk would either unless they guaranteed him something, extraordinary. They were like, yeah, 3-year deal, man. You're our starter for the next 2 years guaranteed. But even that, I feel, is kind of a home run swing, and it probably wouldn't land. So most likely you're looking at two teams that would have heavy interest in Kirk Cousins, the Minnesota Vikings and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the fact that the Falcons are still on the map, albeit that is a, what do you call it? That's kind of like a life support take, in my opinion. It's kind of resting on the ventilator, but it is still a possibility that he could sign with the Falcons, although I don't think it's going to happen. These are the two teams that you would likely see. One more time, I'll ask you, what team will what team will Kirk play for in 2026? Subscribe and let me know down in the comment section down below. That's all I got for you on this episode. I'll be back a little bit later on with more Atlanta Falcons news and rumors. As always, Dirty Birds fans, rise up and be cool.